look, to be fair, this possibly could be a huge game changer for the RV industry. It could be beneficial to RV manufacturers, consumers, dealers, service centers, etc. It also possibly could be the biggest piece of news since Winnebago bought Grand Design. And that's not an exaggeration. But if you look at 12 to 14 months ago, you look at all the news that has been reported, things that have been talked about, this all makes sense. I mean, we should have seen this coming. I mean, it's been talked about in the past anyway. But you look at Jason Lippert retiring and a lot of other things I've talked about and other podcasters and YouTubers have talked about, the news headlines that RV Business and RV News have released. It all makes sense. But in my opinion, this is the worst thing that could happen to the RV industry. And that big crash that a lot of you are hoping for could happen if we don't stop this. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, and today is your July 2026 RV industry update. Now, what am I talking about? And I'll link the article in the description box below. But Patrick Industries and Lippert Industries basically want to merge and have publicly announced jointly that they want to merge together. Now, this, from my opinion, it's not a fact, it is an opinion from a person that works and breathes and lives the RV industry and the RV lifestyle. This would be an Armageddon level event if it were allowed to happen. In fact, I would ask you to call your congressman. I already have done mine. I recall my congressman said, you need to put a stop to this quick. And I laid out a 5-page email explaining why this merger would basically monopolize an already pretty much monopolied parts side of the industry, and that it would give that company so much control and so much say over the RV industry and RV manufacturing and RV repair that if you put a hedge fund guy in there as CEO, which from my research so far, pretty much what that person is, not an RV guy like Doug Geddard or Bob Martin or God, even freaking ex-CEO of Camping World, Marcus Lemonis. I mean, they're RV guys. You know, the Brady boys, even Brinkley, the Brinkley folks, okay, some of them, not all of them, but some of them. I mean, they would be a better shot at the company merger being successful and kumbayaing with everybody. But if you put a hedge fund board and a hedge fund place in there, it's going to be all about profits. You know, there's rumors going around out there that Berkshire Hathaway is looking to divide up and sell Forest River. I mean, there's no legs to that. That's actually complete bullcrap and baloney. But just imagine if Berkshire Hathaway did that, because they could, and you sold it off to a bunch of hedge fund people. Things like Rockwood and Flagstaff would go from a really solid travel trailer and fifth wheel brand to junk like that quick. And we've already seen this happen with Lance Campers. That's the problem. You start putting people that are number crunchers in the RV industry, you get what happens to Lance Campers, one of the best manufacturers in the industry of travel trailers and truck campers with a great name, and then it went to shit real quick as soon as a big conglomerate manufacturer of number crunchers bought them. Then they sold it off for pennies on the dollar because they lost their ass, because they didn't understand it. It's like Marcus Lemonis and Jason Lippert, and I'm even going to go as far as Don Clark over at Grand Design, because Don sold a lot of stock over the last couple of years out of his Winnebago coffer. It makes sense why these guys are kind of setting up to get out. I mean, this is not a good thing. Contact your congressman. They need to put a stop to this. I don't care if they're two different companies in two different areas. They have smaller companies under their umbrella that cross-reference each other. And it needs to be dug into because, I mean, look, I'm not going to bash Lippert. That's not the way I do things. But Lippert Components pretty much supplies, if I remember correctly, close to 65% of all the components that go into any recreational vehicle. Boats, diesel pushers, travel trailers. It's just unfortunately a fact of life. And 65% is a lot. I mean, but when you do have some other companies out there that are supplying parts and components. And so, if you got 3-4 companies that are smaller, but still supplying 35 to 40% of the total parts given to manufacturers, it has like an accountability thing. I know that people hate and will tell me, oh, there's no accountability and everything's a pile of junk. Well, that's not true at all. There are some junky stuff, but that's not true at all that everything's junk. But at the same time, we got to look at the fact that if that merger causes it to jump up to like 85 or 90%, now you got a full-on monopoly with no accountability and a bunch of number crunchers. Now, that's my opinion. That doesn't mean that would happen. But that's my fear. Like you're trying to, that's like Thor, Winnebago, or Thor and Forest River merging tomorrow. Like that would have to be, there would have to be a stop put to it at some point. Having one big monster manufacturer would breed stupidity. And that's kind of where I stand about it. So I'm asking you to contact your House of Representatives or your congressperson. If we can get millions of people to have Congress look at this, they can't ignore it. And hopefully they would put a stop to it. Now, I apologize if you're a stockholder or investor in one of these two companies, because I know you'd make you super rich. But I don't care about your money. I care about the longevity of a community and an industry that social media has pretty much put either one way or the other. It's either all junk or all beautiful and nothing ever goes wrong. There's no more, hey, toolkit and sense of humor. And if this merger happens, it would just nuke the entire thing. Because people would just stop buying RVs. Because at that point, the only people making money are Liz Amazing. Let's be real. The only person making money at that point is Liz Amazing, because she's going to have so much content and food for fodder that it's just going to, she's the only one that's going to make any money in the industry. So we need to put a stop to this. And quick. And we can't stop it by screaming and yelling at them. We got to do it with the government, unfortunately. And I don't like the government. And I think politicians are crooked as hell, but got to do something. So I already contacted my congressman. Okay, now to more positive things. Now I'm going to read this off of a little blog that a guy did. All right, here we go. So apparently the used market is up 12% year over year and 6% month over month. And that's hard to track because that doesn't include private sellers. How that's tracked is through loans. Okay, so if you go look at all the credit unions and banks, they usually give not private information, but they give basic data to survey companies to release data points. So this doesn't include, this only is from folks that paid cash through a dealer or financed the unit at a dealer or private party. So this doesn't include people that went privately and bought an RV cash. There's only people that actually took out an RV loan. So probably the number of people, the percentage of used buyers that are buying travel trailers or toy haulers or fifth wheels, etc., is probably closer to 20% up year over year and probably closer to 12% month over month, because there's a lot of cash buyers out there. You know, and I'm talking about cash buyers that are paying $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 for an RV. I'm not talking about people that can buy a $50,000 used motorhome cash. I'm talking about just the folks that are going out buying something that in their mind is more affordable. They rather have a pile of junk that they have to DIY project than finance something right now, because several reasons. You know, mainly I think a lot of it is folks' credit isn't as good as it was 10 years ago, and interest rates are not exactly friendly for you if you have under a 760 FICO score. That being said, we are still experiencing the same situation with used RVs that we were at the beginning of the year. There are more buyers in the market. It's estimated that there are 9 potential used RV buyers for every 1 piece of inventory. So why are private sellers not selling them as fast? Why are some dealers still overstacked with used inventory? Because the consumer has a price in their head and the seller has a price in their head, and right now they're not correlating. And I tell this to a lot of people. I had a conversation yesterday with someone that owns a Winnebago motorhome. Beautiful Vista, 2011, 42,000 miles. I mean, you could lick the floor. That's how clean this thing is. Brand new tires, everything. He wanted 50 grand for this motorhome. Realistically, it should sell right around 35. And I showed him how that works. And surprisingly, he brought it in on consignment, which is interesting. But just that conversation is different. It's like, what did well, they have it I just went over this with a guy the other day. Well, RV Trader has it listed for this. Well, yeah, but how long has that advertisement been on RV Trader? Why has nobody bought? Why are there 15 of this unit priced around the same and nobody's sold it? Because the price is too high and people are like, yeah, I want it, but I'm not going to pay COVID pricing. Fact of life. So we just have to realize, as an industry, as sellers, whether we're private doing it or whether we're dealership doing it, from July on, we have to understand the consumer sets the price, the buyer sets the price, not the seller. The sellers don't set the prices. They don't get to choose what they sell for. They can choose what they want to list it for and sit in their storage area and not sell for, but they cannot choose what the buyer is going to pay for it. The buyer makes that decision. I'll give you a great example of this, and this is on this is new truck campers. So on new truck campers, sorry, I'm getting a cup of coffee here. New truck campers, the Palomino 750s. Now, the Palomino 750, the Palomino people screwed me over big time and charged us $1,500 more per camper because of shipping costs. Now, that was baloney and bull crap, I found out. I just got something shoved up my butt is all happened, but c'est la vie. So we raised our price $1,500. For 4 months, we sold none of them. We dropped the price back down $1,500, ate the $1,500 extra cost, and all of a sudden we can't keep them in stock again. So who set the price? The buyer. The buyer set what they're willing to pay. It's a lesson that manufacturers should learn too. Well, people are willing to pay more for better quality and more stuff. No, they're not. They're not. Because if that was true, then a Coleman 17B would be built like a ship brick house and be a dealer cost $40,000 trailer. People are not willing to pay for quality. They're not. They want a champagne quality travel trailer for a water price. Doesn't exist. So that's why they're buying used, because in their mind, they're getting the same quality of a new one for a price that's more reasonable. I have a buddy of mine that has a dealership back east. We were talking. He said it's so hard to sell a $15,000 small trailer, but it's been easy to sell big used diesel pushers. It's just a fact of life we have to realize and step outside of ourselves. And that's the way it is. Now, the financing part is very interesting. So if you're looking at financing a used RV of any kind, you want to actually look at this playlist right up here.